March 18th, 2021, King County, Washington. At first, nobody believed there was a case. There was no missing child, no body, no break-in, no crime scene. Just a 12-second video from a daycare security camera. The footage came from a place called Cedar Grove Learning Center, a small daycare outside Seattle, the kind of place parents trusted. Bright walls, handmade drawings, family photos taped to classroom doors. Nothing about it seemed unusual until someone reviewed the overnight footage. The video showed 6 children asleep on small mats. 2 staff members were lying on the floor nearby, not sleeping, not talking, just staring at the ceiling, perfectly still. Then, at exactly 2:13 in the morning, something moved above the ceiling tiles. The image wasn't clear, it never was. A dark distortion, a shape, a movement, something crossing overhead. 12 seconds later, the footage ended. The daycare called it a camera malfunction. Police agreed. The case should have ended there. Instead, 3 weeks later, a woman named Tessa Vaughn walked into a police station and reported something far stranger. She told investigators she was beginning to doubt her own memories. Not one memory, not 2. Entire years of her life, Tessa was 36 years old, an ICU nurse, a single mother. She had spent years helping people survive trauma. Now she was questioning whether her own past had survived at all. According to her statement, everything began the night she watched the video. Because the following morning, her 4-year-old son said something she couldn't explain. He was eating breakfast, quietly pushing cereal across the table, when he suddenly asked, "Mom, do you remember the first time you saw it?" Tessa assumed he meant the video. "What are you talking about?" Remy shrugged. "The thing above the room." Tessa froze. "You saw the footage?" "No." "Then how do you know about it?" Remy thought for a moment, then gave an answer investigators would later hear several times. "That's what they told us." Tessa frowned. "Who told you?" The boy looked genuinely confused, as if the answer should have been obvious. Then he said, "The people who said adults forget." For several seconds, Tessa couldn't speak. The sentence made no sense. Yet she couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, she searched Cedar Grove's history. The building had existed for decades. Different names, different owners, different directors, but one room never changed. The nap room, the room from the footage, the room beneath the ceiling. A few days later, Tessa found an old class photograph from 1995. At first, she barely looked at it. Then she noticed a little girl standing in the front row. Brown hair, small scar above her eyebrow, 4 years old. The girl was Tessa. She stared at the photograph for nearly an hour, because according to every memory she had never attended Cedar Grove. And yet, there she was, smiling beneath the exact same ceiling. The ceiling she could no longer stop thinking about. That was the moment Tessa stopped asking what had moved above the room and started asking a different question. Why didn't she remember being there? The deeper investigators looked into Cedar Grove, the stranger the story became. Former employees refused interviews. Former students avoided questions. Several people immediately ended phone calls the moment Cedar Grove was mentioned. One former teacher finally agreed to talk. Her name was Eloise Harrow, 73 years old, retired, and visibly nervous before the interview even began. When shown the daycare footage, she didn't react to the shadow. She didn't react to the ceiling. Instead, she quietly said, "They started using the test again." Investigators asked what she meant. Eloise took a long breath, then explained. Decades earlier, Cedar Grove had participated in a private childhood cognition study. Officially, the program examined memory development. Unofficially, it examined something much stranger: how false memories are born. Children were placed inside a room at night. Cameras recorded everything. Adults remained still, no reactions, no explanations. Then the children were given a single suggestion. Every night at 2:13, something moved above the ceiling. That was all. No photographs, no descriptions, no proof, just an idea. Most children ignored it. Some became nervous, some imagined sounds, some imagined shadows. But a very small number of children did something extraordinary. They built entire stories, detailed stories, consistent stories, stories so complete they felt real. Their minds filled every gap, every blank space, every unanswered question. One child stood above all the others. Subject 14, Tessa Vaughn. Investigators recovered her original file. Inside were hundreds of pages, drawings, observations, interview transcripts, psychological notes. Researchers described Tessa as exceptional, not because she believed the suggestion, because she expanded it, protected it, defended it. One researcher wrote, Subject 14 demonstrates an unusual ability to convert suggestion into lived reality. Another note was even more disturbing. If challenged, Subject 14 restructures surrounding memories to preserve the constructed narrative. In simpler terms, if reality contradicted the story, her mind changed reality. At least inside her own memory, the discovery forced investigators to review Tessa's adult life. That review uncovered another contradiction, one much larger than Cedar Grove, her husband. According to Tessa, he had died years earlier. She remembered everything: his voice, his smile, their wedding. The day she learned she was pregnant, the day he died. The grief felt real, the memories felt real, but investigators could find no evidence he had ever existed. No marriage license, no death certificate, no tax records. Nothing. For a time, they believed he might simply be another memory created by Subject 14. Then a photograph appeared, and everything changed. The photograph was authentic. Investigators verified it. No manipulation, no editing, no forgery. The man standing beside Tessa was real. The problem was, he wasn't her husband. His name was Dr. Adrian Mercer, the lead researcher behind the Cedar Grove program, the same man who had supervised Subject 14 nearly 30 years earlier. At first, the discovery seemed impossible. Then investigators uncovered archived recordings. The recordings revealed that Tessa and Adrian had met again as adults, not as researcher and child, as two people. The relationship was real, the connection was real, and eventually, Remy was born. But something happened afterward, something significant enough to break the story, Tessa told herself. Investigators never discovered exactly what occurred. They only discovered the result. Tessa's mind did what it had done since childhood. It rebuilt reality. The relationship became a marriage. The separation became a tragedy. The truth disappeared beneath a safer story. A story she genuinely believed. A story she lived inside for years. When investigators finally presented the evidence, Tessa didn't argue. She didn't scream. She didn't deny it. She simply cried. For a very long time, because for the first time, and she understood something terrifying. The most important memories of her life might not be memories at all. Weeks later, investigators conducted a final interview, not with Tessa, with Remy. The child was calm, polite, surprisingly observant. Toward the end of the interview, an investigator placed Adrian Mercer's photograph on the table. Remy immediately recognized him. "That's my dad." The investigator asked, "Did your mother tell you that?" "No." "Then how do you know?" Remy looked at the photograph, then looked back at the investigator. and answered, "Because she gets sad whenever she sees him." The room fell silent. Then the investigator asked one final question, a simple question. "Do you think your mother forgot him?" Remy thought for several seconds, not frightened, not confused, just thinking. Finally, he shook his head. "No." The investigator leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Remy looked down at the photograph one last time, then quietly answered, "I don't think she forgot him." A pause. Then, "I think she stopped remembering him." The interview ended shortly afterward. Officially, so the case was closed. No criminal charges, no arrests, no public statement, just a file placed into storage. But one question remained unanswered. The original question, the question that started everything. What moved above the ceiling at 2:13 a.m.? According to every surviving Cedar Grove record, that was never the purpose of the test. The purpose was never the thing above the room. The purpose was to discover what people would create when faced with something they couldn't explain, and what they would do to protect those creations, even from themselves. Black screen. End.